Video posted. Well, links posted to stream, I guess. Oh, God. I'm tired. I'm slowly chipping away at the rules video. I had a little anxiety moment when someone was talking about the rules dropping on Saturday. I was like, oh, God. Because there's no way I was going to be done the video by then, since the whole point is to try to get the video done so that by the same day or next day the rules would drop. And then I was just like, oh no. A little bit horrifying. Well, let's get to it. We've got a lot to work on. Yeah. I also kind of need to figure out. I think I need to pull my wet palette. Get the fidget palette over there. I don't know how this keeps happening with my wet palette. But the paper keeps like curling up after I close it. So then it just sticks to the top part when it really shouldn't. We might have to seal the focus on the camera. Rather than mixing pink and white, I actually went out and just bought some So Flat fluorescent pink. It's not fully opaque, so we don't have that benefit. Get a good. Is there even a way to zoom in further? There we go. Push some stuff out of the way so I'm not constantly hitting things with my hand. So yeah, the trick with these people, compared to the Genestealer cult, like actual Genestealers, the pink is only supposed to be kind of like top side. Like only really on the upper half of their bodies. It's like a slight cyberpunk highlight. I'm going to go through all this work just to make this guy look good. And then the AdMech corrupted dude is going to come out. I'm just going to have to paint him instead. I can feel it. I still hate that we don't know when any of that's coming out. The Malstrain Alpha, the AdMech, like there's just zero information on those specific models, which we've seen like a year ago. It's like actually a thing. We've known about them for almost a year now. No info. Supposedly we're getting the rules for 2 of the teams this weekend. Like they're going to do like a rules overview of 2 teams as like a deep dive. Supposedly, I don't know. Either that or somebody got their hands on the rules early and is putting out like a video. Supposedly Saturday is going to be a day we're going to see maybe some example games. I don't know. I hope we get like the rules, because if we do, I could quickly work on setting up a recording area again and actually get some recorded footage. Of a game, which supposedly is going to be between the info we're getting is going to be the starter set. Kind of like a we came from here and let's see how it is now situation. Orc Commandos. Some Vet Guard. Could be cool. Pink Edge highlights. Easy enough. Gotta remember that the lights on their chest, as well as I think some of their backpack lights, are all gonna be pink. Been watching some of the Hobby Collab guys recently. They've been doing a lot of streams, it looks like. They're getting into Blood Bowl, which looks cool. And a buddy of mine was like, yo, you should try Blood Bowl if you really like skirmish games. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Issue is, I'm guessing the bulk of the local Blood Bowl community is up by my friend, who's like an hour from here. So, like, if that's something I'm getting into, that's something I have to basically equate, like, driving an hour every now and then to and from a spot just to, like, play a game. And I don't even know, like, how fervent they are at playing the game. Like, it could just be, like, once in a while. It seems kind of cool. I like the idea of, like, fantasy football, like, actual fantasy football. Freaking dwarves and gnomes and shit. Tossing a ball back and forth, trying to get some points. Having to manage team costs and values. The idea of running like an actual season at a local store. Since units cost points, it's kind of like how Kill Team Spec Ops used to be. Like, well, currently is, I guess, until the new rules. Where the main function is like you have X amount of points and value and costs, and you earn X amount of money based on victories, losses, stuff like that in the league, and you have to spend those on wounded people to get more players and things on the field so you actually can field a team and not get completely screwed over. And there's teams where the balance is that they can easily get injured, so you're constantly spending money on new units. And it's hard to like upgrade stuff and get better side things unless you have like a really good game. I was debating purchasing this pink. But knowing that Emperor's Children is an eventuality, I figured it'd be useful. Let me touch this guy up a little bit. The original tester. I might have to touch most of them up. This pink wasn't supposed to be this opaque, but I kind of like it. Like it's much brighter than the way I was originally running this. We chilling. Slow day today. Probably fine. Good to have a quiet day. I might try a different time for streaming on a couple days. I think Monday is pretty good for midday, just to like chill in the middle of the day. I kind of want to try like proper prime hours, since I now have sort of the opportunity to do that, specifically on Fridays. I could easily run like a later in the night stream, like an after dinner wind down stream or something. Question is, what projects are we going to do? We have the guns for the knights to work on, as well as we have to magnetize them. They are Gene Stealers in the back. These are Gene Stealer cultists in the front. I do play Gene Stealer cults once in a while. This is a pretty heavy on the admin type game though. Like, you really need to pay attention to like when you're shooting, what you're shooting with. They are pretty crazy if you're trying to play them. This is not an army I would point to for people who are like, I want to start playing 40k now. What army should I play? You will never hear me say Gene Stealer cult. Like, there's a special kind of torture you have to be into if you want to play Gene Stealer cult. It's great because they're super swingy, which means they feel good when you gamble and win. But, like, ugh. There's a level to them of just like, man, we're getting screwed over. But yeah, the guys in back are Pure Strains. I do play Biosanctic as my detachment, which means my focus is actually a bit more on Gene Stealers, as well as Aberrants and Abominants. Most of these guys that I'm painting now are more for like mechanics and like hanging out, holding points, giving me command points if possible, I think. I don't think any of them do command points. I think they're mostly just sticky objective. But yeah, we're just pink highlighting because I do a neon color scheme for them. What you up to? You play Nids? You play Gene Stealer cult? Or you just know the Gene Stealers? I mean, Gene Stealers are iconic, which is why it was weird that Space Marine 2 didn't have any. But I guess I kind of get it. A little bit of the element of the lore is that Pure Strains only really come from the cults. So technically you shouldn't see them too often. really hoping I get this Kill Team rules update video done in time. I'm trying to get like a section or two done a day. And by done, I mean sorted out completely and annotated so that I know where to put things once the actual rules drop. I am looking forward to that. But with a lot of what sounds like is going to happen here in a minute, like probably by Saturday, I might need to get some lighting and stuff purchased so that I can record test games in the new edition. I'm into it. Like, I'm into the idea of it. I definitely want to try pretty soon, once this new stuff drops, to actually go to more tournaments, like real tournaments, not just local store. Because it's weird. There's like a lot of people at my local store who are very active in the idea of being like, oh, I can't wait to play some Kill Team. But then, like, we had a tournament day last Saturday, and it was me sitting there until it started, and then a guy showed up late, and it was his first game. And it's like, dude, we have so many people who claim they play. And it was so weird, too, because I kind of hung out there while we were playing, and people came over, and they're like, oh, dude, I love Kill Team. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we play it all the time at this guy's house. And it's like, dude, why aren't you here? Why did you show up late and then, like, not play? Like, you knew this was a tournament today. It's been posted for weeks. Like, it's an awkward local feeling for the scene for Kill Team. Because the whole time I was playing AOS Spearhead, there were people at the event being like, oh, this is really fun, but I can't wait to get home with the teams that I've built and, like, test out some fun tactics in Kill Team. I'm like, God, the community is growing, but where the hell are they all playing? Jesus. I just want to know. So I gotta actually get to, like, real tournaments. Maybe after this new seasonal release, I'll do it. Depending, I might main the Warp Coven for a little bit, because the Warp Coven should be going out after a year. At which point, depending on how they change, I might go over to Hyrotech, because the Hyrotech currently are one of the closest teams to how the Warp Coven play. So I imagine that's going to persist. Hopefully that helps out with your local scene, man. The new edition sounds great. Does not sound great for people who like narrative, considering Spec Ops is gone, but I think there's at least an element of what we've already seen with Spec Ops, and the fact that most people have pretty much retooled the entirety of the Spec Ops rule set anyway, that it shouldn't actually be that hard to generate, like, homebrew, right? Because there's so much that's just standardized within that system of just being like, hey, to get your requisition point, you need to do this many different side missions and stuff like that. Like, there's probably, if Games Workshop themselves doesn't drop a book for Spec Ops very close to release of the new rules, there's no way that some fan of Kill Team Narrative doesn't just immediately drop a baseline 1.0 if you want to play narrative Kill Team, this is how you're going to do it situation. But for competitive play, everything I've gone over in a video that should be out shortly after the rules drop, it's good. Like the leak stuff we've looked at, it's really good. It's really defined when certain stuff happens. It's kind of cut down on a lot of the terminology bloat. I think one of the key changes that's I guess somebody I saw noticed who was going over the rules book, it feels like you can't upgrade retained dice necessarily. There's this weird crossover for the Eldar Corsairs, where the Eldar Corsair rifles get accurate 1, just passively. So you should just be able to retain a single hit as or a single dice as a hit. And they're just like, yeah, you can retain it without rolling. But then a lot of those guns get rending as well, which claims you can upgrade a normal to a retained critical. But there is no built-in terminology for what makes a retained dice a retained dice. Like, can you upgrade that? Can you change it? Can you adjust it? Or is it just flat at that point? Because a lot of the times when someone has like a you can't take crits, it always says you can't retain crits. So is that just like a preventable, or it's, I don't know, it's peculiar. I'm getting a phone call. We're tearing through these. I might need to... We're probably going to need to get in my mind, like, what we're going to do next. Do I reactivate the airbrush and do we start working on the components for the knights? I'm not too sure. Might need to hit this brush with some soap. Get some of that pink stuff on here. Starting to fray a little too much. Which is always weird. I don't know why it would fray the way it does. Like, the bristles are getting pulled forward, which I don't understand. There's just a small handful of just way longer than the normal brush bristles now. So what's the temperature in the room for the pricing? How you guys feeling on price? What's up, Spurgit? I think it's not that bad. The prices for the solo boxes sound ridiculous because people have been pointing out that like the Brood Brothers are like $80 for 7 units or something. Like, it's crazy. I mean, it's up there, definitely. But the starter box for the Hivestorm season feels about right. Oh yeah, the Mandrake. I heard the Mandrakes and the Scorpions are really expensive. But the trick with that, with the Scorpions specifically, is you're getting a full squad of, I think, 10. What is it? 6? It's 8? I think it's 8. You're getting a full squad. And if you look over at the other units that you can take in the Blades of Cain, you get like 4 for like $40. So it's kind of wild. That's the part that I don't get. Like, some of the models, like the like Dire Avengers, Howling Banshees, like, I don't know why those are so just wildly expensive. There has to be something about them, like the way they're put together, the difficulty of it, whether or not they have to throw out a ton of bad sprues every time they try to make a new batch. Like, there's got to be something about that, man. Well, most of it's rumor for the boxes, from what I can tell. Everyone seems very dead set on the Hivestorm box being $230, which is a bit, if you think about it, compared to like the starter set. But the starter set gives you the small terrain, a crappy paper board. Like, it's the worst elements of what used to be the Octaria set, basically boiled down into a single thing. And the book for unit abilities they give you, like the unit rules, is incomplete. So it's okay because of some of the stuff they give you, but like there's a big element to the starter set that's like, oh, that's not that great. But you can circumvent it by being like, oh, just use Wahapedia. They didn't give you the rules. Use Wahapedia. It's like, oh, alright. So, like, to that degree, it's okay, I guess. But $230 for Hivestorm nets you all the terrain, which the terrain actually isn't bad, and the rules for them is pretty cool, actually. They're designing it closer to how Beta Decima and the Gallowdark terrain works, where there's preset builds. Like, when you go to play the game on a competitive level, unless local tournaments decide to do it differently, there's specific layouts that terrain's going to be in. And this doesn't override open maps. Open maps still exist. They just use, like, raw rules. You have to kind of establish, like, oh, this ladder here is actually a ladder. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you can set it up how you need to. That's kind of the goal of open maps now. Still wild, though, for the pricing in general. For those specific units. Like, mainly for me, from what I understand, the Eldari Craft World units, those seem way overpriced in terms of cost. Because, like, an Eldari Craft World box costs, like, double what a Raptors box costs. It's just like, weird. Alright, I might have to mute my audio again here in a second. Three more neophytes, and then all I gotta do is their bases. Sweet. This is good, because I'm doing the rules overview. I'm going to be listing B-roll that I need to record, and I need this table for B-roll recording. So I have to clear it off, set up some terrain. I got work to do. But yeah, I honestly, yeah, 230, you get all the starting equipment. All right, I'm back. Dude, I was I think 3 or 4 months away from being a Votann player, I feel like. When I came back, I saw Thousand Suns for their own thing. I was like, I'm going to go Thousand Suns. So I started buying, and I got their Primarch. I got all that stuff. They did the battle box that year, right? Like, I had a few things already, but then that year they were like, here's the battle box that has the a bunch of rubrics, which is useful, always. And Magnus, which I didn't own at the time. And Warpfire Minis sold it for, like, really cheap. Like, really cheap. So, I was like, yeah, we're in. But had I waited, like, a little bit to start purchasing, like, all the Thousand Sun stuff, when they dropped Votann, I would have been like, oh, I'm going Votann. Space Dwarves, let's go. Rock and stone. The thing is, both Thousand Suns and Votann are very close in general strats. Not like the magic side of things, but their whole purpose is damage output downfield. So going Votann on top of Thousand Suns wouldn't really be that interesting if you're looking for changes in how to play based on armies you pick. So Genestealer Cult was the obvious choice for me, wanting some weird stuff while simultaneously kind of wanting Horde, while simultaneously kind of wanting melee. Because Biosanctic is melee AF. Dude, the Biosanctic rolls, oh my god. And with this, the last of the neophytes. For now. I was debating grabbing Blood or Brood Brothers just to do it. Until I heard that I think it's like $80 for the box. It's gonna be like 70 or 80 for like 6 people. I was like, nah, bruh. I might as well drop like 80 on 2 boxes of Blue Horrors for my Disciples of Tzeentch / Chaos Demons. That I don't like. Trying to think, because I've been writing. I've been going over all of it. I feel like if there's going to be a rule I don't like, it's going to come from a team. I'd like. The core rules feel so mechanical. Like the way the game is played is clear now. Like it's almost surgical the way the rules are written. There's only a little bit of gray. In particular, I think the key one was like I said, when is a dice, like what can be done with dice. What can be done with dice in front of the house next door just so I don't answer the door? Oh. Like, when is dice retained? What does that mean? Like we were saying earlier, because you have armies like, or teams like the Corsairs who get accurate 1 on all their rifles, but all their rifles also have rending. So the clarification on whether or not a retained dice can be upgraded to a crit versus if the dice isn't retained yet, like, is that when it happens? Because I think that terminology is probably one of the grayest right now. The assumption is that no, because the dice has been retained, which means it is now fully held. So that's like the assumption, I guess. But to have it be clarified would be super useful. But beyond that, it does, I think, come down to team rules. Because most of the other rules aren't really that much of a problem. And there's nothing that sounds like completely busted. It's interesting that they decided to put defense dice explicitly on the shooting action. And I feel like it's because there's going to be some abilities going forward that exclusively look for certain types of rolls out of your defense. So there might be something like take one defense dice test or something, and if you fail, this thing occurs to you kind of situation. Okay, one of my favorites right now is hot. The new hot rule, I don't know if you guys have seen it. Spoilers, I guess, if you were weirdly trying to wait for the full release to check stuff. The new hot rule is fantastic. It works so well with like other rules built into the game as well. Like in particular, how hot works now is it's a single test. It's not based anymore on you needing to roll like the hits. It doesn't come off of the hits being ones is the key thing here. Hits being ones is no longer a thing. You're probably like, well, I mean, that's great for some people, you know, it'll mitigate the damage a little bit. No, you don't understand. In the Inquisitors have plasma cannons, and the way hot worked and interacted with plasma cannons was every single attack that was made from the blast could potentially trigger hot rolls. And the damage for the target or the person using it. Which, think about that. That's freaking horrible. That is like one of the worst things you could possibly do is to fire that plasma cannon into a group of people. Did I do the toes on these guys? I did not. We'll leave the toes out. Release dates? I don't know. Rules changes, like the new rules, Reddit. It's all over Reddit. It's pictures everywhere on Reddit. It's just straight photos of the actual books. Which would be one of the biggest trolls ever if they weren't real. If it was actually like somebody spent the time to graphic design an entire book. Just to get people thinking they're the rules. And then doing this good. Like, the fact that the rules actually feel really good and sound really good. Like, to go through the effort to make a really good sounding, like, update to the rules just to troll us. That would be wild. I love these guys. I love their look. Because this is, for me, when I made them, it's like the stage before Malstrain. Like the tendrils are supposed to like bust out of their backs when they go to Malstrain tier. It's only D3. It's only D3. And it's only taken after the entire shoot action is done. But the reason I like this is because of Injured. Like, explicitly because of Injured. The Injured state makes it exciting. And people who have the ability to debuff hits, like currently, what is it? The Psychomancer? The Psychomancer can target a unit and have it be treated as injured. That you can just toss onto a person with a hot weapon that does like a lot of good damage. You do it now, sort of, because I mean, you don't want that guy hitting on his normal ballistic skill usually. You want him hitting worse just to mitigate the damage. But now it also has the potential of doing like good damage to the unit, since now that guy, maybe he's hitting on a 4, now he has to roll a 4+ after everything to see if he gets wounded. Which is cool. Maybe there's going to be other ways of reducing the hit rate now that, like, that's probably my favorite part, is seeing things like the hit stat, because who cares? Why is it called ballistic skill versus weapon skill? Why did we do that? I mean, everyone talks about like symbols instead of inches. Why are we referring to a hit stat in the form of ballistic and weapon skill? You can simply state +1 to hit stats of melee, +1 to hit stats of ranged, or just +1 to hit during an action of some kind. Like, you don't need to keep referring to everything as ballistic skill, weapon skill. It was even funny that on the actual data sheets for characters, the ballistic skill, weapon skill was like a dash. Like, it was the same thing in the same tree. The same, like, stat sheet. So for them to be like, oh, let's just call it the hit stat. It's like, yeah, it's we did it. That's my real victory right there. Is having them reduce that kind of terminology. I love the update to melee stun, because doesn't sound like you can melee stun anymore. I think it's only ranged. But you can shock, which is just perpetually I crit you, so you have to now remove one of your hits, which, to those who don't know, because it wasn't a common thing for people, stun in melee only allowed you to reduce, I think, a single hit, and then the follow-up would cause the APL reduction going forward for the next activation for the person you hit. And that's whatever, man. Like, it's getting rid of one attack and then doing an APL reduction. It felt really bad. It just, there was no good to it, right? It was just like, whatever. Now with shock, you start by removing normals. If your opponent has no normals to remove, it allows you to remove crits. That's crazy to me. That's so good. It feels like there's a lot of changes in the new rules explicitly, and this isn't actually why, but it feels like it. Explicitly to make the Arbites feel good as a team. Like, Arbites rules, if you look at them now, they actually feel really good. They changed, it looks like, the ability to arrest to actually feel like you're doing something in melee now, because like things can't leave you in combat. They just can't. It's not even like roll to see if they don't run away. It's they can't run away anymore. It's so good. They feel better now, and all their weapons have shock and like lethal 5. They're low health, but by God, they actually could probably withstand some elite level melee pretty effectively for at least a turn or two. Which, I mean, that's what we want. The Arbites need an enhancement because they kind of suck. I wonder what else they're getting, though. Because the arrest function is kind of just like generally they can't run away. I don't know if they're going to be getting something else other than the you can shoot into melee from this range situation. I wonder if the piercing crit 1 rule will be in effect, because I think that's the one thing they gave them for damage increase was P1 from within a certain range. Because they needed a couple things. They were a melee heavy team that wasn't good at melee against most enemy factions. They were a straight counter to like guardsmen if they got into melee with them. But outside of that, they like, what are you going to do? You're going to go into a Corsair and get hit once and die? No, yeah, that's why I like the new hot rule, and they were very explicit. If you make multiple attacks with that gun, it's only one test. So now the Inquisitorial agents will feel a lot better using the plasma cannon, even though you still, I mean, you definitely felt good using it. Using the plasma cannon in the Inquisitorial agents was practically, depending on situation, going, hey, I'm going to kill my servitor. But at the same time, I'm going to kill like 4 of your people. Like, no issues. One go. And now that servitor's like, I'm going to kill 4 of your people, and then I might take 3 mortals. And just keep going. It feels so much better for them. And it's generally good for everyone, because, I mean, the average plasma gun hits 4 times. I have, over the course of my time in playing Kill Team, I have had that horrifying situation of rolling all 4 dice and getting all 4 ones. And just being like, oh, well, shooting with this guy has now put me in a position where it might cost me 2 to 3 command points to keep him alive. Oh, they've also become very clear on rerolls. That was kind of a thing that was sort of laid out in the current rules, but there was a little bit of openness to it, but now they're very explicit, right? So, shooting phase. I roll to hit you. I have to, in that moment, choose to reroll, which I think is a persisted thing coming over from the old rules. I'm pretty sure it explicitly lists that the rerolls can only occur in that moment before retention. At which point, your opponent can then roll defense and then do rerolls separately. So the defender technically has a little bit of an advantage in that you know exactly what's coming. Like, you know if you're going to need to spend points, you know. Like, it's a bit of a benefit. Melee, though, was a little bit more open, and they've said that the way it's supposed to work is whoever has initiative, which means round initiative, which is one of those fun concepts where round initiative could cause more problems. Like, it's sort of a possible downside, possible upside. So, if I melee you, and we both roll dice, and it looks good for me, but the person maybe wants to see if I'm going to reroll to try to guarantee something. So they're like, oh, I don't want to burn my points unless I know. They can pass in that moment, and then I would pass. And it would be like, well, that's it. No rerolls. We are locked in, boys. So they're a lot more specific on reroll timing, which is good. They are also very explicit on incapacitation versus removal. Because currently, to my understanding in Kill Team, there's this system where the moment you hit the end game for your wounds, you're picked up. Now, what this means is if I flamethrower or blast your squad, right? Like if I actively go like, all right, let me toss a blast into this group. If I can center that blast on your medic, all right? If I center the blast on your medic and I roll that one out first and I kill your medic, that medic's gone. And everyone afterwards, if I roll for them to die, that's it. Like, they're just out. Now, unless the medic explicitly says it can't do this when incapacitated, what'll happen is the medic will die, or the medic will be considered incapacitated, but not removed, which would mean that its abilities that can be triggered while incapacitated are still able to be triggered. So if one other person goes down during that shooting effect, or that shooting situation, depending on the wording of the medic rule, which I think there is a medic that I need to go over and look at how his rules work, he might be able to revive the next person to go down before himself going down. This is Golden So Flat Fluorescent Pink. I'm using it because it's a bit more opaque than the high flow. And I don't want to have to mix it with too much white. I assumed it wasn't going to be this opaque, but it is massively opaque. It's a lot brighter on my neophytes than I was expecting. But things like, oh, this icon bearer has an aura that it's using, right? Until the end of that whole blast action, if that aura is like plus defense dice or something, or plus whatever, it's going to persist until that icon bearer goes away, like actually gets removed. So being a little bit more clear about that kind of timing, very useful, I think. As well, we've seen already in a lot of the unit reveals in the news articles that almost all, well, not all, but almost all of unit buffs and enhancements persist for a while. A lot of the sniper ones for anti-obscuring last until the end of the turning point. That way, if you can do a out-of-action shoot for whatever reason, well, there you go. You still get your anti-obscuring. There's also been a few abilities we've seen on those lists where the abilities themselves do last until the next time the unit goes, or if the unit dies. Which, that's really good. That is something I've enjoyed heavily as a Warp Coven player, and I've always said needs to be more universal. Because it makes the game more interesting to time stuff. And it gives you a bit more, what is it? A bit more control of turns in which you don't go first after the fact. Fusillade being gone, but Fusillade is now Torrent, which is much stronger in my opinion. But we'll have to see which long-range guns get Torrent. Because I'm not too sure we're going to see too many long-range Torrent guns. But Torrent is basically blast, but it does require line of sight to the person, well, being a valid target, to the person using the attack. And you get to choose who's getting hit. So if you have an ally in that area, just like hanging out, like if it's a really big Torrent, and you just have like a guy chilling who's within that range, you can just be like, yeah, I'm not hitting him. Which is a little different from Blast, where, yeah, you're going to be rolling for him. Let me see how much damage he takes. I'm going to go grab my blacklight for you guys so you can see the overarching effect of all of this. But yeah, this is unmixed with anything versus needing to be mixed with white just to make it opaque. There is a mild chance I'm going to have to pull all of my Genestealer cults out, and we're going to have to re-edge highlight everything with this new pink, because I do like this new pink better. That might be tomorrow's project, honestly. If we're going to stream tomorrow night, it'll be the full Genestealer cult re-edge highlighting day. Ugh. But yeah, new Fusillade sounds good. Honestly, the average person would never use Fusillade. There's a few edge cases where Fusillade's good, like applying debuffs to a few targets from a single action. But needing to forcibly roll, like, individual shots on a bunch of people that, like, oh no, I missed. That was a complete waste. Like, it can be good. Yeah. Hang on. Let me pull up the wording for you. I went over it like twice. It specifically said you get to choose This would be under glossary for my folder. Rules update, glossary, page 1. Select a valid target as a normal primary, then select any number of other valid targets within X of the valid target as secondary targets. You get to select them. They also must be valid targets, which also means that usually you're not really targeting your allies with that like valid target system anyway. But then, yeah, you shoot the weapon against them in an order of your choice. Roll each sequence separately. This would still all be under a single action, and units are not removed till the end of action, which is why auras persist during large-scale blasts and stuff now. The higher tech? It's difficult. It's very hard to balance them. I like some of the buffs I've seen for so far for the which unit is that? The Death Mark. They've also, in my opinion, super buffed them in a way for tournaments. I don't know who noticed. Rosters no longer exist. Thankfully, I don't have to tell people how to make a PvP roster. So because rosters don't exist, you're not going to have to, and they've done, it's a buff for Warp Coven as well. You can choose in the moment whatever abilities you want on whatever champion you want. You don't have to like leave open space in your army to fit as many champions as you need with the certain abilities you need. You can just have what you need, which is great. It's a shift for armies that need a lot of operatives. The glossary is from the picture leaks of the rulebook. It's one of the collections. The person who released it did the rulebook, and then they did a couple things separately to that. Oh, I forgot to increase the music to 50. But yeah, there's a bunch of leaks on the Reddit, which is just pictures of the rulebook. And the person kind of separated it into a few sections. There's like core rules, glossary rules. They did the mission cards separately. They also did like the mission part of the book to show like how regular missions would be put together. Stuff like that. They did all that, like, in different components. But yeah, Fusilade's gone. But Blast has been changed. I think Blast is one of the only other gray rules I found. It's like, how do I put this? So the way Blast works now, it's still the same thing. You measure from the base edge of the target to any other nearby enemies to see who's in the blast. They do now explicitly say that conceal no longer matters in that situation. So basically, if the person, as long as the enemy is visible to the original target, which is simply that you can draw a line from the head of that target to any part of the body on the extra target, it's now a valid target. They do then say that obscuring or cover, as long as it is conferred from the original target, will go to all the other targets as well. What they don't say is that if the line is drawn from the original target to other targets, that would also get cover from that type of an attack, which doesn't normally happen with Blast 2 because 2 is the magic number. So, like, you just shouldn't get cover in that situation. But, like, let's say it's Blast 3 and they are at, like, max range for the 3 inches. It doesn't say that they would get cover from being 3 inches away. It only says they get cover if the original target gets cover and obscuring. So it's like a little gray and a little finicky. but like not the worst. I imagine most people are going to run it as you can only get cover or obscuring if the original target gets a cover or obscuring, and that it doesn't matter. And 9 times out of 10, the blast is going to be a 2-inch blast, which means you wouldn't get cover or obscuring anyway. So technically, you're getting a benefit. Whereas blast right now, to those who know, basically overrides everything on anyone outside of the original target. So you could throw a grenade at like a really weak original target in a vat of well-protected, like, strong people. And the fact that the weak guy's the center point is the reason the strong guys are going to get hit by a lot more damage. Which was always a fun little gimmick, but it's gone now. Because as long as the weak guy's in cover, all is well. And the big thing that's on everyone's lips who's been reading the leaked rules. Grenades no longer have a form of indirect. Indirect is now seek, and grenades do not have it. They just don't. Also, I still think there's enhanced grenades. I still think certain teams get enhanced versions of grenades. There is a universal grenade anyone can use. But didn't they show like a Votann grenade that's like way stronger or something, or like differently strong that they can pick? Which technically means for 3 equipment points you can get support grenades, actual grenades, Votann grenades. I'm happy with how equipment's changing because it's going to be a little bit more fun. So I'm happy with it because of the fun. I think it's going to be fun for other people, like for new players, and it should be just generally fun for everyone that starts using it this way, the way it's supposed to be used. I think it is a bit of a loss from the strategic side of the competitive nature of the game. Because you could do things right now with equipment where you start placing items on people that you want your opponent to be like worried about or seeking to kill as early as possible. Putting a really good grenade on someone and then putting that person in like a tasty position is a great way to pull enemies that you want over to that side. That way the person's just like, oh yeah, I need to get that grenade, and I need it to be in a situation where he doesn't want to throw it because there's only one target. Like that kind of situation. And you could easily manipulate your opponent by doing this, if that's how they want to, you know, go with the counter to whatever you're doing. Now, with how grenades and stuff are set up, and all gear, it's universal at this point. There's only some equipment I imagine you can purchase that only really helps like single models. The gear we've seen from the Aquilans and the Stingwings, it feels like there is a level of this is for everyone except maybe like 1 or 2 units, or this is just for specific models. Like we can actually, well, I'll talk. We can talk about it. Screw it. Let me finish painting this one's nails. Let me pull up the info in a second. If I played Tyranids, this is how I would paint them. Like 100% this is how I would paint them. I would do a night fight color scheme, and then I would paint parts of them to be glowing. And that would just be my nids. Because I think it does look really good. Like it just looks so nice. Well, that's the thing. They showed us the Death Mark, and the Death Mark already has equipped one of the items that they you have to purchase right now. It's the 0 action point cost. If you don't get a crit, you retain it. No, they get the obscure thing now. The thing they got as equipment before, which was, it used to be 1 action point, now it's 0. Upgrade a normal to a crit if you don't crit. That's built into their gun. That's actually just a straight gun ability. So that's super nice. But let me take a look. Teams. So for instance, all teams look like they're going to be getting 4 specific pieces of gear. So Tempestus, right? The Aquilans. You can purchase Tempestus daggers. It is limited to Tempestus Aquilans, excluding Servo Sentry, so your little gun bot doesn't get this. Every single person is going to, for one, in competitive play, you'll get 4 equipment points. So for one of those, every single person gets except the Sentry, gets a Tempestus dagger, which is 3 attacks, 4 up to hit, 3/4, which is way better than their fists. So like that kind of upgrade system, really cool. I like it because it's just fun. It's less tactical by being like, all right, I have to equip plasma knives to these 2 Hearthkin, and then I'm going to put them closer to the front to be a little bit of a deterrent to people kind of situation. Combat stims, the use of Minotaurian, blah, blah, blah. You can ignore any changes to the move stat of friendly Tempestus Aquilon operatives from being injured. This does not have the limit on it of no sentries. So the sentry can also not be injured, although the sentry might have that built in. I'd have to double check him. Once during the battle, when rolling off to decide initiative, you can re-roll your d6. This is a 1 action point. No one gets it as equipment, but you get it as just a passive thing. If you think about the Kasrkin have this as a 1 command point function currently. This would just be 1 equipment point, and you can hold it in your back pocket. Drop Augury. Once during the battle, when a friendly Tempestus Aquilon operative that's set up from above is activated before expending or landing, you can move one of your drop markers. This is yet another equipment you can purchase that is one-off. Does not help your entire team, but might help a single moment in the game. So they still kind of have that limited structure of like, oh, this is something you can get that kind of helps a little bit, or they have that overarching structure of, does everyone want knives? Does everyone not want to be considered injured? Like combat stims 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be used if you're playing Aquilans, because you just don't get the minuses anymore. You'll be able to move 6 all the time. It's fantastic. Let me take a look at the servo. This operative cannot perform any action other than dash, fall back, reposition, and shoot. It cannot retaliate. It has no melee weapons. It also cannot assist in a fight. This operative can perform 2 shoot actions passively. It does not have the can't be injured rule, so if you do not take the anti-injury function, if this thing gets to 4 wounds, it'll be considered injured and therefore hitting on 5s for most of its guns except the flamer. Ooh! Okay, I found a long range. Hot shot volley gun. Sweeping. So this thing has something called a hot shot volley sweep. Full field range, 4 attacks, 4+ to hit, 3/4 damage line, piercing crits 1, which is P1, and torrent 1 inch. So everyone within an inch of the core target's base will be targetable by this for a full follow-up from full field distance. That's kind of cool. So we might still get cool things like that. Like the Death Jester might still have something. Ooh. Aquilon Grenadier. Melt-A-Bomb. Range 3 inches, devastating 3, heavy, reposition only, which means you can move and toss this, I think? Yeah. Wait. Because heavy dash is heavy, but you can dash. Heavy reposition only means you cannot dash and use this. That means, oh, okay, because it's 3 inches, and I'm guessing blast is... No, there's no blast. It's just dev 3. So you have to run up to a person with your full reposition, and you can still chuck it. You just can't dash in this situation. That's kind of weird. Dev 3 though, Jesus. Melta Carbines, range 6, Dev 4. Yeah, the classic Melta. I love Melta. Piercing 2 on both of them. Melta is going to be huge in the new rules. Well, you can take 2 times grenades and 10 times. When I'm saying passively, like, wait, which moment are we talking about? Decamp. Let me go see the Hive faction equipment. Neurostimulant. In the ready step of each strategy phase, when determining how many communion points you have, you can roll 2d3. That's standard. That's just across the board. That's good. Once per turning point. That doesn't even require a certain unit to be on the field. It's just you'll always get that, which is nice. You need those points. You might actually use that all the time. Once per turning point, a friendly Vespid Stingwing operative can perform pickup. So this is built in. You get to do a pickup without the cost of a communion. That could be nice in some missions. Not all missions require pickup markers. So that could be good, just to toss on. Accelerant Stimulant. Whenever a friendly Vespid Stingwing, so this does not allow for the Oversight drone, performs the charge or dash action, it can move an additional inch. If it uses fly for this action, you can set it back up an inch further away. Charge or dash, it can move an additional inch. If it uses fly for this, you can set it back up 1 inch further away. Oh, because fly is a little specific. Yes. Performing actions twice unless... So, currently in Kill Team, and I think it's persisting into the new rules, because I think they showed a duelist that does this. When something says, hey, you get to dash for free, hey, you can do this action twice, blah, blah, blah. If it says for free, you're still doing the action, which means you can't double the action, but you just don't have to spend the action point for it. Technically, you're not spending action points anymore, by the way. Just general terminology, you're not spending action points. Your APL is your action point limit, which you're filling with the action points of actions that you're using. So when you use reposition, it's 1 action point that goes into that limit rather than being pulled from it for whatever reason. They decided to shift the concept of how action points work. It makes it a little smoother, I think, with their terminology, but yeah. But if something says this can shoot twice, you can do the shoot action twice, but you're still incurring the gain of action points into your limit every time you use it, unless some units in the game, like dual pistol wielders, will say something in their information like, hey, for 1 action point, I can shoot both of my guns once each time at 1 or possibly more targets. So you have things like the Corsair dual pistol wielder, who has like a fusion pistol and a shuriken pistol. They can shoot for 1 action point, they'll be able to shoot the fusion pistol at someone, shuriken pistol at someone. Maybe it's the same target. Maybe they can split if they want. Stuff like that. So yeah, if, like, let's say, I imagine with the Angels of Death, they're going to follow the same thing where a lot of the units will be like, this can fight twice, this can shoot twice. Yeah, you can, but it's going to still incur the cost. Unless it says this can shoot twice and one of those times is free, it still costs. Oh, are you looking at the wait. Which rules are you looking at for the Tempesters? Did they just reveal some stuff? No. Or are you looking at the Aquilans? I love that they did the paint stuff where they showed off everyone's paint schemes, and like 4 of the Vespid players painted them as wasps. Like, just 4 different people were like, oh, this will look good as a wasp. I think they said pre-orders were this weekend. Actual release was October, right? That should be good. Kill Team. Deathcore Spotter. Kasrkin Trooper. See, like, if you look at the Kasrkin Trooper from the reveal, this is kind of cool. So you can do each of the following once per turning point. You can use a smoke grenade action, or you can use a stun grenade action. Technically, this means Kasrkins do not need to purchase the support grenades unless you want to do more per turn, potentially. Because it looks like they basically get one action from that tree without the need to purchase the equipment. Because performing this specific one-off action does not count towards the action limit. So if you own the grenades, you can still use them. This guy's going for shrimp. Delicious. Well, I know. So the Inquisitors still get the Tempestus, but did they show us the Tempestus? Like, did they actually list the card for them? Because I know the Tempestus will persist as only Inquisitorial Agent, like, assistance now, along with the Sisters of Silence. I just don't know what that's going to look like, is the thing. But you go to Aquilans. I do think that Plasma is not normally in the Aquilin tree. Grenade launchers, hot shots. The Gunner does get a Plasma Carbine. And to be clear, the Plasma Carbine, when supercharged, does get hot at a 3+ to hit. So if this squad doesn't get affected by the injured state, that's really good. This guy is going to murk people. Piercing 1, 5-6 damage line. Although because of the drop system, dude, I'd lean into the Melta Carbine so much. Straight up piercing 2, 6 damage with the chance at 4 mortals on crit rolls from a 6-inch range. That feels so good. Hot shot, Las Carbine, Las Pistol. Where's the leader? I'm guessing. Oh, you mean the Tempester? Ah, you mean the leader. Okay. It's the Aquilin Tempester. Yeah, they didn't give the leader a plasma pistol. It's a very common thing that I guess we're not getting. How does he get loaded out, though? He is specific. Okay, so he is specific. He can either take a full-on gun and fists, a relic and a chainsword, or a hot shot and a power. Let me take a look at the relic. Relic bolt pistol, 3-5 damage line. That's not bad with a lethal 5 attached. Power weapon, 4-6 damage line. Oh yeah, they made the, I think 6. Wasn't it used to? Didn't it used to be like 4-5 for power weapons? I can't remember. It's been so long. Lethal 5 though, and a 4-6. I mean, I could see going melee on him specifically because the hot shot las pistol isn't the worst. 3-4, range 8. It's whatever. Lethal 5 sounds really good in melee. There's a lot of good stuff in here, man. The Aquilin Grenadier is great. The Gunner sounds fantastic. They don't have a lot of special rules, but like the Tempester does have a 1 action point command ability. Support, which, by the way, if you're looking through your list of units that exist and you'll see an action or an ability that has the keyword support attached to it, the equipment that is the Vox caster will increase the range of whatever that ability is by 3 inches if the person using that ability is within, I think, control range, which is 1 inch, of the Vox caster. So this guy gets select 1 other friendly Aquilin, excluding the servo, visible to and within 6 inches of this operative, so it would be 9 with the Vox caster. Until the end of that operative's next activation, add 1 to its APL. So he gets the APL increase. Wait a second. Okay. The chainsword's nice. 4 attacks, 3 up, 4, 5 is decent. The chainsword is with the relic bolt pistol. It feels more all around to go relic bolt pistol chainsword because it's just good general damage. If you're going up against big elites, though, you might want the power weapon to try to bring one down in one go from a lethal 5 hit. Hot shot, las pistol. So if you look at the grenadier, this operative can use frag, crack, smoke, and stun grenades. Doing so doesn't count towards any limited use, which means this one guy can spam those grenades. Whenever he is using it, improve the hit stat by 1, which is really good, because if you do look at the universal stats for grenades, they suck right now. Universal stats are 4+, which is a really good nerf to them because they can be pretty game-changing. So to go 4+ to hit universally for everyone, even like Space Marines and stuff, is going to be really good. But if you have unique units like the Aquilon Grenadier, who gets 3+ and can just use them without needing the equipment, that's going to be crazy. So they kind of brought back grenade spam. He gets a really good melt-a-bomb, but then you can just start going into like crack grenades and stuff afterwards, which is really good. Oh, here we go. Gunfighter. This is the dual pistol user. He has Hotshot Las Pistol Salvo, which select up to 2 valid targets. Shoot with this weapon against both of them in any order. So this is a 1 action point double shoot technically. That's where the 1 action point comes into play with that. Whenever an enemy operative within 8 inches of this operative shoots this operative, keep track of each attack dice that discarded as a fail. After this action, before incapacitated operatives are removed, including this one, if relevant, the operative can perform a free shoot action. See how it says before incapacitated operatives are removed after the action. So when an action ends, removal happens. This becomes an interrupt just between that moment. So if no one's removed, you'll still shoot. But if he's getting removed, the gunfighter, you get to perform a free shoot action. You can change the order to engage to do so. It can only target the enemy operative with the Hotshot Las Pistol focused, which isn't bad, ceaseless rending. And you can only roll a number of attack dice equal to the opponent's discarded attack dice. +1. That's pretty good. Yes, throwing a grenade is considered shoot. It tells you to look at the universal actions to see how you use them, and all of them are considered range weapons, which means you have to perform a shoot action in order to use it. And since he cannot shoot twice, you can't throw a grenade, then shoot a gun, or throw 2 grenades or something. Oh, and it's not turn, it's activation. To be clear, because you said in the same turn, you might be meaning in the same activation for the individual unit, but to be clear, you can throw multiple grenades in a turn as long as it's across multiple different units. And you have the ability to do so with equipment or abilities. Marksman. Marksman with the silent. Concealed position as well. This operative can only use this weapon the first time it's performing the shoot action. Wait. This operative can only use this weapon the first time it's performing the shoot action during the battle. That's crazy. I've never seen that roll before. So the Marksman has 3 different versions of its gun: stationary, mobile, and concealed. And you have to, for the first time you fire it using this profile. You don't have to be concealed to fire it. It would just be considered this shooting action, and you must use it the first time every time. Hang on. So I've never seen that before. A limit to your ability to shoot, and it must be this version. I don't know. So that requires it to be heavy. Now, heavy is new. Well, not new. but it's special. It's a special version of heavy. Old heavy let you dash. If this straight up says heavy, you cannot move, which means you have to use this stat first, which is really good. It's Dev 3 on 4 attacks hitting on 2s. Silent, so you can do it from stealth. But because it says heavy, the first time this unit shoots, it has to have not moved. So if turn 1, you're like, man, I need to move my marksman, you're not going to be able to get out of this function. So you're basically declaring that you're not using a shoot action the moment you choose to move. Because the heavy does not come with heavy dash or heavy reposition. Precursor. Whenever this operative is fighting, after resolving your first attack, you can immediately... Oh, this guy gets double strike. The Precursor gets double strike. Dude, that's so good. It's not a great weapon. It's a 3-4 damage. But the Precursor is going to be great into humans and probably... No, not Eldari. Eldari are probably going to be wounds 9. Anything wounds 8, the Precursor is probably going to be sick into. 8 or below. Whenever this operative performs a fight or shoot, it can immediately perform a free dash. That's really good. It can do so even if it performed the charge action during this activation, but can only use the remaining distance it had from the charge action. Oh, that's not that great. I like the fight dash concept, though. Move, fight, dash, just to reposition and possibly get some damage down range a little. It's not bad. Aquilon Troopers. So the Aquilon Troopers have, and I know you guys aren't seeing this, I don't know if I can show the leaked stuff on stream or if I'm going to get yelled at for it, but we can talk about it. We'll do that. The restriction is only during their activation with heavy. Firing from counteract, to my understanding, should still work. The main thing they talked about with heavy is that the guard action in close quarters is still usable, because the guard action is a shoot action that is done during your activation, but you don't actually declare which weapon you're firing with. You just declare that you're going to be able to shoot later. So that's why they clarified, like, yes, you can guard after moving with a heavy weapon. That wouldn't let you do so otherwise. But yeah, counteract would work. You could move, dash, chill if you know that counteract is coming. Strategic Gambit, though. The troopers have rapid insertion. I think you can see this. I think they show this on the information reveal. But they have something called rapid insertion, which is a strategic gambit. Strategic gambits are used in the strategy phase during the gambit step, which is basically when ploys are used. Ploys are now like all gambits. Everything is basically under the gambit tree. It's just gambit ploys, like strat ploys, are now just gambits. Actually, how do I... It's hard to put it this way. So strategic is kind of the overall. So strategic ploy, strategic gambit. Strategic ploy implies there's a 1 command point cost. Strategic gambit implies there is no cost. But you can still use them in sequence during the strategy phase. Currently, there's a few teams that have this where we start, like, let's say the Hearthkin. We'll start the strategy phase. I'll be up first, and you'll be like, I wonder what he's going to do. I could declare, hey, my leader's going to drop a grudge token on your guy over here. And that doesn't cost me anything. So now I have to see if you're going to spend a point. And if you're like, oh, I don't know if he's going to do something now, then maybe you pass because you don't know if I'm going to activate anything. And you don't want to activate your defense if I'm not going to do the +1 ballistic skill. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I could just pass and screw you over. Or I think there's another guy who has the ability to drop a token on the field. I don't know if that's strategy phase, though. I think that's another phase. But you can do this up front in your ploy step, in your strategic phase. So this allows each friendly Tempestus Aquilon trooper, so you can take a bunch of troopers if you want to do this, to reposition, which that was a term we didn't understand until the rules got leaked. Reposition is move. So they will get their full 6-inch move before the game starts for free. They cannot extend further than 3 inches from the drop zone. But that's, if you have like a full squad of troopers on the field, that's a bunch of guys. I think it's like 4 people in total who just get to move 6 inches before the game starts. But yeah, some of these things are awesome. Some of the Bespin abilities are really good. I'm going to get back to painting, though, because it is almost 2, and I kind of want to finish these guys today. New rules are great, though. New team rules that were revealed are extremely... how do I... promising? We'll go with promising. Because I did have a lot of worry that the teams were going to get kind of dumbed down a little too much and everything was just going to get, like, the flavor would be kind of reduced to try to balance it better. But, I mean, we're looking at someone who has a full field torrent gun that has a 1-inch torrent function. We already see that. So now I'm interested to see what the Death Jester gets, because he might get like a torrent 3. And be absolutely horrifying. Like, I wonder what heavy bolters and stuff are going to have, right? Because heavy bolters had Fusillade before. So will they get, like, a decent ranged torrent instead? Probably not. If you really think about it, it's horrifying to give a heavy bolter the ability to pick multiple targets within a range and just roll full 6 attacks and stuff, or 5 attacks or whatever it's going to be. I felt like the assumption would be that like a lot of us were trying to figure out how to make torrent not garbage. It's not that a new data slate's coming, it's a whole new PDF. The way they announced it, what we're getting is just a straight up PDF of the new rules. All of it. All teams are going to get new indexes with their information in PDF format. You can also purchase the cards if you want, although the card packs sound like they're, I think someone said like $30 each, which is wild for some of those teams, although you do get a lot of stuff in that card pack. It's okay, I guess. I'm going to be a little discerning for the teams. I'll probably buy the Warp Coven cards, maybe. And then maybe the Hyrotech cards. I'm going to try to buy the ones for the teams I'm going to use, like, a bit more. I'm kind of thinking I want to play Hearthkin, though. Hearthkin are really fun. They're super spiky. Because of how grudge tokens work, like, what I experienced was just, hey, I'm going to try to damage your guy. Oh, I rolled 2 hits and 2 crits, and I have 2 grudge tokens on that guy. And this is my plasma gun. So let me just upgrade these other 2 hits to crits, and I have done 4 crits to you. You can only roll 1 defense dice. And if you fail, it's like 20 damage. It's like, oh my god, the spike. The damage spike is so serious with them. And I kind of love it. Which, I mean, that's how they play in the actual game. But we'll see what the changes are to them. I do think I might play Hyrotech after Warp Coven, though. It's kind of hard, because I do enjoy Wormblade as well. And Warp Coven and Wormblade are going to probably vanish around the same time from competitive play. So I have to sort of, like, pick which one I want to focus on, because I do want to try to get to a tournament or two if I can find one with one of those gonna be going away soon teams, right? Like, I want to try it. They are. They seem super fun. The readjustments that they revealed are a little scary. Not scary, but like a little like, huh, I wonder how this is going to work. but we do need to still see like statting. Because the way it sounds like it's being shifted is kind of in the direction of revive sucks again, but I've always been a component of you don't want to even revive. Like, that's one of the things. Like, you shouldn't be putting units in a position where you're like, oh, hopefully I revive now. That was part of my plan. It's like, if you plan to roll to get something to stand up and then potentially have it live. I mean, it's a decent strategic concept because if it does get up, it's probably not going to be at a lot of health, which means your opponent is going to need to waste an activation in order to kill it. And that's going to be key. Because you do kind of want that at certain times in the game. So a unit standing up, you're not hoping he stands up to do something. If he can do something, that's fantastic. You're hoping he stands up so that the 4 other people in that room have to choose who's going to activate and do something to kill it. Like, that's the whole reason you're standing them back up in that room. But if it was one of your core strategies to get first activation after standing them up and then, like, killing 2 people, oh, good luck. That is not a gambit I'm willing to take. But outside of that, yeah, they are super fun. And it's... If you haven't played Warp Coven play the same way. Very slow moving, very methodical units with huge damage output. And they are still one of the current only teams outside of Hyrotech that have really big game-changing abilities that persist between turns. That's going to be a little more universal in the next rules from what we can tell. So, you know, there's going to be a lot more of like, oh, until the next time this guy goes, this benefit is in play kind of situation. Which is good, I think. I actually kind of like that. Makes the game more fun for all the other teams. But yeah, right now they play very similar, which is why I like them both. Because I like that style of play. I'm hoping with more teams having access to it, once those teams go away for classified, I'm hoping there's a team that exists that makes me go like, oh, I'm playing that. Yeah, that's my team. Only check them out if you want. Again, they're going to be a 1-year team, unless you're playing in like a local group that doesn't really care and is doing like declassified games and stuff with each other. There's probably no reason to really collect them unless you really want to. But yeah, they're very similar. And the reason I liked the Hearthkin after playing this last tournament is kind of because they're the same as well. Grudge tokens are persistent. They're a slow team. They have huge damage output, but they don't have a lot of survive outside of their armor save, which their armor save is really good. They did get some really cool benefits recently though from the data slate, which I'm hoping persist into the new team in some way, shape, or form. The leader of the Hearthkin Salvagers has a force field. And what the force field is, it's a once per entire game. The first time a single dice, does 4 damage or more to you, you discard the shield and that dice is completely negated. Just absolutely negated. So he's really good if somebody's like, oh, I'm going to play Melta Guns and Plasma Guns into this team. And you're just like, all right, I'm going to run my friggin' leader at you with his big-ass fist. This will be hilarious. Like, you have to kill him with small damage. which usually doesn't have the AP that's good enough to get through the 3+ armor save that they have. I love it. It's funny. They kind of did. They showed the one thing. So most of the... Like, your higher tech will be good for at least 2 years. But most of the Season 1 teams are all 1 year left, basically. Season 2 teams have at least 2 years. Season 3 teams will probably have maybe 3 years. But they've only shown the 2. Salvagers are among the Season 2 teams, so get maybe 2 years out of them. The real question is whether or not declassified teams are going to get like random massive overhauls and then brought back into classified. That's kind of the thing I keep hearing from people, but they're saying it in that sense of like they don't know and they're kind of hoping. So it's not like they've heard from Games Workshop or something that that's their plan. It's more just like, oh, this is what we know normally happens in this situation for things like fighting games or, well, not fighting games, but like card games and stuff. That's what we know occurs in this kind of a situation. So that's what we're kind of expecting. And it's like, yeah. It's when the new rules start. Yeah. When the Hivestorm season starts up is when it's going to be about a year for Harlequins. I can pull the list up. It's like Commandos, Corsair Void Scarred, Vet Guard, like all those Season 1 teams as well as the annual teams, which includes the Star Striders and the Gellerpox. Legionary are on that list. Who else was on that list? Pathfinders, Novitiates, Phobos, which I'm kind of sad about. I do really like the Phobos as a team in general. And to hear that they're going to get like knocked pretty early is kind of like, oh man. And then you move up to the Season 2 teams. Those should be about 2 years. And then potentially from the Beta Decima teams, Season 3, we might get 3 years out of them. Maybe. They did say it tends to be based on whether or not like there's some big change that occurs in the game that makes those teams way too imbalanced or something. It might cause them to be like, all right, we're pulling them early or something. Or if the community in general is like, yo, I can't go to a tournament without the Angels of Death just winning everything by like a landslide, then maybe the Angels of Death get pulled. Because Angels of Death are being considered Season 2 because I think Intercessors came out during the Into the Dark season. And they're sort of like an advanced version of the Intercessors where you get to choose a bit more with your character loadouts. It's no longer just knives or guns. It's now like, do you want a heavy bolter? Do you want a melt a gun? What do you want? I'm gonna grab my mouse strains when we're done here and work on them with the new pink. This pink looks so much more vibrant. I didn't expect this. When I saw the pink on the bottle and I saw that it was still kind of transparent, I assumed we were going to be getting something close to how my pink and white mix was working before, where it's just a little light. But this is going on like straight up flat. Like this is barely any see-through. at all. This is barely any transparency. Unexpected. Which is probably going to have me, maybe tomorrow, go through every single one of my Genestealer Cult, like, already painted units to update the pink. Because this is a really good pink. Unexpectedly good. We still got a bunch of Genestealers to go through first, though. Kind of hoping one of the new enemy units that occurs in Space Marine 2 is a Genestealer. So iconic, man. We need them. Probably not, because Angels of Death are intercessors. They're the new intercessors, and they are set for the 1 and 2 year list, which should mean they go away in 2 years. Their plan is to keep everything rotating, but I don't know how much they can keep up with that, let alone one of the reasons they said they wanted to do it this way was so that they could pull boxes that they're done with. But the problem with that is, and I brought this up, Agents of the Imperium, the Agents of the Imperium boxes involve breachers, so they're not really pulling the breachers, unless they're pulling them for 40k. They involve Starstriders, so again, are you pulling Starstriders from 40k? Like, what's happening here? They have the Inquisitorial Agents as a box that you can just get. It's not even branded Kill Team. It's just a box for 40k. So are you getting rid of those guys too? Like, it just doesn't feel right. Like, it feels like it's just kind of an excuse sort of to just rotate teams to keep people purchasing new teams. Because, I mean, that's kind of the goal. They are a business. They need people to not just buy one team and then never purchase anything again. Because Kill Team has some interesting implications. It feels like there is a big enough community of people who are like, this is my game, this is what I play. And they won't touch other Games Workshop IPs just because they don't fit the same niche that they're looking for. So it's good to at least fulfill those people a bit. That's the thing, man. That's probably the way to go, is to somehow pick a single style of what you're going to play, right? Like, if I really like Warp Coven, if I could look through Warp Coven and figure out how to make, like, a handful of cultists that look sort of Imperial Guard-ish with a bunch of weapon options and, like, melee options and stuff along those lines. And then, you know, I've got maybe like a really cool looking Chaos Spawn or two. Maybe like a Chaos Spawn that has like a weird Obliterator style gun coming out of it. Like, you just create proxies that are, it's a 40 millimeter base for a large creature that has a gun, a 40 millimeter base for a large creature that's only melee, a bunch of 32s with like big tanky things that have, you know, like swords and pistols or bolt guns or like a Gatling gun or like a, and you just go down the list of general things you expect to see in the 40k universe. And you just make a bunch of units in that style. That way, when the new team comes out and they're like, hey man, check out this new, you know, this new Space Marine-y style quick close range team. Oh, okay, cool. Let me just grab the rules for them and see what units I can pull from my interesting looking Thousand Suns proxy team and just run them as it. Because now they're actually putting base sizes. That was a huge thing that I'm super happy about, is that the base sizes are now completely confirmed on the card, which also kind of means they can change it. So if a base size changes in 40K, like how the Gene Stealer base size changed, they can change it in the data slate for the fix and actually show it on the cards digitally by being like, oh yeah, they're 32s now instead of 28s or whatever. But marking base size is great for proxy play. Proxy play will greatly improve, I feel, from cards being like, dude, straight up, this is a 40 mil. So you gotta get a 40 mil base, get your unit on it, have fun, and you can make it whatever you want. I think Glass Half Dead did his Tau proxy team. He designed them to be able to fulfill a lot of the Space Marine style stuff, like the Legionary he could run them as. He could run them as Phobos. He just uses the rules, and he has a bunch of Tau and power suits. He could then make like a bunch of regular Tau and run them probably as like IG if he wants. Like, that just seems to be the way to go. As long as... So, local tournaments, depending on the TO, you could probably even do, like, 3D print proxies. But if you're leaning into, like, straight-up Games Workshop tournaments, and you always have to check with the TO in that instance. Don't run off of what I say here as, like, yeah, they'll do that. No, check the TO. If you're going through BCP, you can usually email them. Just email them like a picture and be like, this is my team. It's a lot of proxy. Can I run this? Or do I need to like make sure I procure the proper teams or whatever? So beyond that, if we're talking like Games Workshop run, you need to be, you know, battle ready, which honestly, I don't even know if this is actually battle ready. If we're being real, I don't know if this is battle ready. Like, I think it will be considered, but I think battle ready, I thought was more about like getting proper components filled and like trim properly done at least, which we have not done here. This is me just putting color and light on stuff. So I don't know if I'd get the battle ready points, but who knows. But if you're doing GW, you're going to need to make sure whatever the proxies are GW proxies, which is to say you have purchased GW models and have turned them into things that can be clearly defined as the team. For instance, there was a 2v2 kill team game that was going on, although I think this might not have been the 2v2. This might have been a different one. I was watching it cast, and there was a guy in it who was running Gellerpox, but I guess he didn't get a box of Gellerpox, or maybe he just wanted to do this. His Gellerpox were an amalgamation of... How do I put this? They were an amalgamation of green stuff and Tyranid bits. Okay, the old Battle Ready was 3 colors, but they changed it. Because a lot of people were doing what I'm doing. There were people who would show up to tournaments with a team they literally just purchased because they heard it was meta. And then they would OSL it with 3 different colors and call it a day. Because that was the rule. 3 colors equals battle ready. But I think, I want to say the major, like, not GW group that runs international tournaments, who's doing the international team tournament thing right now, I think they changed their ruling to being like it follows the Games Workshop announcement of Battle Ready, which Games Workshop Battle Ready isn't 3 color. Games Workshop Battle Ready is main color, trim color, detail color. Which Battle Ready in that situation is like, okay, I painted my Space Marine blue, I'm going to trim it gold, and then I'm going to paint a couple brown like sacks or satchels on it, and I'm done. And yeah, you're done. That's battle ready. So like I don't know. That was one of the things early in the year where I was like, huh, it's weird. Why would they do that? But now I look at my Gene Stealer Cult army and I'm like, oh no. I painted them all OSL. Yeah, he has Necron Gellerpox. He has he bought the all-female Necromunda gang, and he runs them as Blooded, which is great. Because Blooded have an Ogryn, and there's apparently in that all-female gang like a completely roided out chick with like heavy weapons. Yeah, that's the Ogryn. 100%. So yeah, him and Glass Half Dead all have proxy teams, which is really nice. And going forward into the new rules, I don't see why those teams can't be used for certain things. Technically, I do have a couple teams that I could proxy into other situations as well. I do have Legionary, which I could run as Nemesis. I know there's a ton of people who got into Kill Team because of the Death Guard Kill Team. They could run them as Legionary for a bit and then eventually run them as Nemesis, which it's like, whoa, that's weird that they're stealth. And it's like, you have never played against a Death Guard that keeps Cloud of Fliesing you, have you? They're stealth AF. Like, I really love getting Cloud of Flies every 2 minutes by a Death Guard team. It's great. It feels fantastic. I'm going to shoot that squad with... No, you're not. No. Yeah, so the key thing is as long as base sizes are good and the silhouette... This is another thing. The silhouette does not feel like you are trying to play to your advantage. Like, if there's a team that comes out that's on 28s and they're like really, really tall, like the model's like that tall for some reason, this couldn't be played as it. But like this is the average size for a guardsman. I could probably use them as Brood Brothers if I really wanted to. Or I could, if I had enough of these and they looked different enough, I could probably run them as Vet Guard. I don't have enough extra like mid weapons on them to be like, oh yeah, these are my Vet Guard. Because I don't have like a medic. I don't have any of that. But with minor conversions here and there, you could have them. It's not the worst. I think the Aquilans are 32s, I want to say. In theory, even though it's kind of weird, I could run like Raptors as Aquilans. It's not playing as an advantage. My units are near unhideable compared to an Aquilan. I want to say they're 32s. I can double check. Because I'm pretty sure Raptors are 32s. Oh no, I think they're 32s. Yeah, part of me really thinks they're 32s. I can look it up, though. I mean, technically they showed us on the reveal of the team with the one guy that they show for the cards. Dry brushing some pink. Making it easy for edge highlights. Am I still under teams? Yeah, I'm still under teams. Third, oh, they are 28s. 28, 28. The tank is a 40. 28s. 28s, 20. Yeah, 28's universal. I think it's the Stingwings are 28s as well. Okay. Basically. Oh, dude. It would be the most prime conversion ever, but you'd have to, like... You'd either have to find a really good 3D printer for it, or you'd have to pay way too much money, in my opinion. Let me grab him in a second. Let me get this guy's claw painted. We've still got 6 to go. I'm gonna go. No, we're still good on time. We're still doing okay on time. Imagine this for your Aquilin team. Just think of this as your Aquilin team right here. This baller ass jump pack. Votann Aquilins. You can, because the mid body on this is the same as regular Votann bodies, so you could put like Votann guns in this, like the regular plasma, the one that you could be like, this is a melt-a-gun kind of situation. The sniper, which is just the Magna rail. You could easily do it. 100% easily do it. No issues. You could probably do custom for dual pistols, for the dual pistoler guy. But if you could find someone, because the way this works, here's the thing. If you have one of these teams, you might be able to figure something out. This backpack, the jump pack, is the regular base backpack for a Votann with this top part being attached to it. So the way Votann packs work... Alright, Vort. The way Votann backpacks work is you have a baseline backpack you attach, and the top part is hollow. You then apply the top component to the hollow part that is equated to what the unit is. So in the Hearthkin Salvager pack, they give you this like midsection and these 2 jet propulsion devices. So if you could find someone that could reproduce this specifically in bulk, you could make an Aquilin Votann team, no issues. Which I think is pretty cool. Personally. Honestly, like, they need to release the Jetpack Votann as like a squad. If the Jetpack Votann get released at some point here, you could easily just buy that box and be like, alright, time to make some Aquilins. The Tempestus Stingwings. Well, the you could do AdMech Stingwings. That should be fairly easy. AdMech Stingwings. You could probably run Gargoyles as Stingwings. you would just need some standout components. You need to make sure who the leader is, the stealth one, and then there's like a couple weapons that might need to be uniquely custom designed or upgraded. Which, if you're already collecting Tyranid, there's usually like a ton of crazy components that Tyranid have access to. Like those little adrenal sacs and stuff. Imagine a gun covered in adrenal sacs. And you're just like, yeah, this is that rad gun that does the AoE that persists till the rest of the game. You could probably pull it off. You just need to make them feel very specific to each other and have very unique overall elements so that people you're playing against can clearly go, oh yeah, that's your stealth Stingwing. Gargoyles were kind of sad though. I know you deal with them in some of the maps, but like you don't deal with them, right? Like you deal with them as a mechanic. You don't deal with like all of a sudden you're fighting Gonsan warriors and then you hear like a weird noise. And you just like look up and like a couple gargoyles are coming straight at you and you're just like, oh god. Instead it's just pure mechanics. Like don't let them eat the chains, like that kind of stuff. It's kind of sad. At least they got a little bit better of a situation than the Screamers did. Screamers just got seen. The moment I saw the Screamers in the jetpack portion of going to the Grave Planet, I was like, oh, sweet, we're fighting Screamers? This is going to be great. Nope. Just a backdrop, that's all. Maybe that'll be the new enemy. They already have so many baselines for just stuff in the game. Like, they have the gargoyles could be a little bit more hands-on on the ground. And so could the Screamers. I'm glad you got to fight a Helldrake, sort of, even though it was almost purely mechanical. But in the main storyline, when the Helldrake landed, I was like, sweet, a Helldrake fight. And the Dreadnought just chucked a statue at it and killed it. It's like, aww. It's kind of disappointing. It felt a little bit like the Indiana Jones scene with the guy with the sword and he just pulls out his gun and kills him and walks away. No, yeah, zoanthropes are a bit rough. There's a couple moments in the game where I see what's happening and my first thought is, oh, how did they expect us to defeat this? If we were like, let's say we just survived a massive wave, we're nowhere near ammo, and all of a sudden, like, the freaking Neurothrope shows up. Because the champions usually make it so the doors close. Like, I've been in a few situations where you're like, oh, I could just run, right? Like, you could just go to the other stage and get out of it. But I've also been in situations where it's like, oh, Neurothrope's here, and I'm like, we're right near the exit. I'm out of ammo. I have no healing. I'm really close to dead. So is the rest of us. So I go over to the door, and the door that's usually open is now closed. I'm just like, oh, they want us to fight this. And I think the whole reason the Neurothrope kind of works is apparently, I guess, if it attacks too many times, it goes down to the surface and does that psychic horror scream thing for a bit, which means you can melee it. You just have to dive roll. Although I will say, something's going on with the connection in that game, man. It's like something feels off. I fought the Hive Tyrant last night, and every time he did his psychic scream moment, I would dive roll towards the scream right as it was getting to me, and I would always get hit with it. That never happened before. You would always dive roll through it, and it's like, all right, yeah, that's how it works. But now it feels like there's like a weird latency problem where I guess whoever's hosting, maybe they don't see that I dive in time, so I'm getting hit because they're slightly off. I don't know what's happening. They use Zangor as like Gaunt equivalents, which is fine. Technically, with how Thousand Suns work now, you don't really see a lot of demons all that much. Like, Screamers was already a bit much, I guess. But it's normally stated that Zangors are given to Thousand Suns to assist them because they're like the mortals that they can kind of pull from easily and send to front lines. Yeah, I don't know. When I first defeated the Hive Tyrant like a long time ago, when I was just playing like a couple weeks ago or something, or like a week or two ago, every time I dodged through the bubble, it worked. I was like, all right, yeah, cool. And now it's like, no, it doesn't work anymore, which feels really weird. And I keep having weird server connection issues. Sometimes it's mostly in matchmaking when I'm trying to find a team and it just never finds people. And usually I have to go play an Eternal War match, and then when I come back, it finally connects to people again. I don't know. It's just awkward. There's just an element to it that's not that great. Connection-wise, at least. The game's fun, though. Although I really want Horde mode, like right now. Horde mode me, please. Huh. Next music page. God, 4 more to go. But yeah, tomorrow, I'm guessing project-wise, I'm going to be pulling all of my Genestealer cults back to the table so we can update all of their pink highlighting with this much better pink. You do. You do gain armor when you kill Chaff, but you have to level to do it. That's why they make it for a later situation. Because you're going to need it. You don't really gain too much stats based on your gnat or mosquito or something. You don't gain too much enhancement based on leveling. It's the things you can level into that are extremely useful for surviving in the higher difficulties. Because there are elements where it's like, kill a guy, get 0.1 of armor, which that's pretty good if you're, let's say, rocking a heavy bolter or a multi-melta or just anything like that, or a melt-a-gun. And you're just running around just toasting like 10 guys at a time. Is there a photo mode? I know there's Ansel. If you own it on PC and you have a NVIDIA card, you have Ansel, which, I mean, Ansel is like a universal photo mode. I haven't set up Ansel though. I kind of want to try it once. It does pop up and go, hey, it's ready to be used whenever you feel like it. And I'm like, I never did anything with you. So I don't know what buttons I need to press. Actually, I don't think we did the... Yeah, I mean, there does need to be a level of like actual stress-inducing difficulty at the higher levels. If you were just consistently gaining a metric ton of survival, the thing I didn't really like about Darktide for that, and I mean it's a holdover from Vermintide, let's be real, is that the bulk of the game is wash, rinse, repeat melee, which I didn't like in Vermintide, and I really didn't like in Darktide. Even though Darktide put more focus on gunplay, it did really feel like the bulk of the game became, alright, something's too close, let me push with the gun that I have out, and then continue to shoot, and then push, and then shoot. Oh no, there's too many. Let me switch to my melee weapon. Push, cleave, push, cleave, push. And I was like, oh, I actually don't like this. Just over time. And I was playing a Fnatic. I actually went Flamer for a little bit there. But then, like, they'd get too close, and I started to realize that the parry knife, or the parry sword, was just really good. Because you could parry bosses. That was what was crazy with it. You could just full parry the damage on a boss with that stuff. But, like, the entire game just became push, cleave, push, cleave, push, and it just got really boring really quickly, because that was it. I didn't like that much. I actually, and I mean, to a degree, it's one of the key elements in video games that makes me not interested in most of them, is that a lot of video games have gone that route where it's more of a rhythm game than a game. And Space Marine's not really different. You'll notice a lot of times when you're playing Space Marine, there's a rhythm that if you match it, you're going to do really well. Like, I've survived ridiculous looking combat simply because I don't get overwhelmed. I'll be surrounded and then I'll just be like, oh, that guy glue blue. So here we go. Let's activate the rhythm game. And I do. And yeah, there you go. You start killing everything around you and you don't really need a lot of anything. You're doing it. I know with my knife on my sniper character, if I heavy, like all I have to do is heavy right away. If I heavy right away, I'm basically consistently shooting, like immediately after, if I'm surrounded in chaff. Because the shoot after will always give me the counter shoot, which by the way, counter shoot does not cost ammo. So if you're out of pistol ammo, you can still do it. And it's probably a good idea just to do it in general. If you're getting surrounded in chaff, is to just heavy shoot, heavy shoot, heavy shoot. Because it'll knock everyone away. You might take an armor of damage. If you take an armor of damage and you've knocked everyone away and then do the shoot, you get that armor back. And if you keep doing that over and over and over again, as long as you're not getting hosed from a distance by ranged guys, which no matter what game you play, Darktide or Space Marine, that's always a problem. I was actually really mad about that in Darktide, because for a little bit there early on, it felt like enemies would not shoot at you if their allies were near you. So I was like, oh, melee's actually really good now. But then over time, it started feeling like the enemies, I guess, had their AI shifted to shoot you regardless of who was next to you, which made melee a chore, because then you're sitting there in a group of people just like, yeah, melee, and then just bullets are flying in, just non-stop. You're like, okay, I'm just taking damage, this isn't helping me, and then you just die. Yeah, I have a fencing dagger, is my thing. I don't know what that means. All I know is I'm still able to spin cleave and get the shot, and I still seem to be able to counter. I think it lets me counter different things that you can't normally counter. I don't know. It seems different. I'm just not too sure how different. The trick for me is PvP. I need to figure out like what functions actually work in PvP. I'm guessing block does not work in PvP. Like at all. I play sniper or heavy usually in PvP, and my only way to deal with melee right now, because I just started playing and I don't have all like the cool extra gear, is if they're running at me, I press spacebar to backstab while throwing a grenade at my feet. And if they lunge at me, they're dead. And I'm dead as well, 9 times out of 10. So it's like the only way I can kind of exist in that game is to just be like, haha, we both die. Like, I know if I press block, it does the animation for it. I just don't think it does anything. Does it actually block? Because I've pressed it and have seen no benefit. I'm not sure the mechanics on it at all. Like, I really want to know if it actually works. Yeah, because I'm rocking the heavy damage fencing dagger right now, which I love. What I don't like is I'm starting to see some weird, like, player concepts. Like, we got hit with a wave, right? And me and the heavy gunner in the pub match I was playing were just like, oh, we got to deal with this. And we had a tactical with us. And we were dealing with it, but then it felt like no one was dying. And I looked around, and there was nothing. Like, there was nothing at all. Like, the tactical left. He was like, oh, a wave. And then just ran on and just left us to deal with the wave. The two of us killed the wave. The whole time we were dealing with it, the tactical was at the door to the next zone pinging to try to get us to go over there. And it was, like, really far away. This guy literally just ran and left us all to die while pinging the door. And I'm like, oh no. Is there a YouTube video out there where someone's like, hey, if you get hit by a wave and you don't want to waste your ammo, just run to the next zone. And now, like, a chunk of people playing the game are all going to start doing that. It's like the GTFO community BS that happened, where like a few people on YouTube showed that in GTFO you can kind of do like this like pseudo running leap everywhere and then spin your hammer at things to kill them. And if you did it fast enough, you wouldn't get any alarms going off or something. But like, you had to be very perfect with your timing and positioning. And people on YouTube showed this, and then it just became, in GTFO, it just became an ocean of people who were like, I can do it too, and none of them could do it. It was just a bunch of people setting off every alarm, causing all the problems, and being like, why are none of you doing this? And it's like, it's because you're doing it wrong, and you're screwing us all over for doing it wrong. And then you're yelling at us because you're doing it wrong. Which felt so bad. God, I still haven't beaten GTFO, but I don't want to play random pub games. I need a team, man. I've had enough of the random pubs. It's not. It's just survival horror co-op. That's all it is. you have to deal with situations. And there's actually maps where you do not get the option of stealth anymore. There was a map I ran into in one of the seasons where, like, you have about, I think, 5 minutes. I think there's a timer that pops up that's just 5 minutes long. And once that 5-minute timer's done, the alarms go off. And that's it. Like, you have to get to the exit, and the alarm will never be shut off. So you're just constantly dealing with hordes of enemies running at you in bulk. And you need to kind of gear yourself to survive it, while also needing to know enough about the level to get to the exit. And some of the waves are really cool. I remember I finally cleared one of the levels. The way we did it, like, the people who I was running with got to a point in that level originally where they knew enough about it that they knew there was this giant enemy at the other side of one of these doors that we were supposed to go through. And we made it, and they were like, all right, this thing's 100% going to wake up, and if we don't kill it, we're going to die. So under an alarm that was going off with all these other enemies coming at us, I had to, like, quickly set up a this massive mine bomb trap on the door right as it opened, so that we were able to pull it through without any enemies tripping my bombs, so we could almost kill this, like, juggernaut thing that was on the other side of the door. Dude, it was, oh my god, the moment all the bombs went off and then we shot it a couple times and it went down, the whole group I was running with was like, oh my god, we're gonna win. It was so cool. Like, that is a game of timing, positioning, loadout managing. Like, you get the right moment, the right shot. It has a cool story too. I watched a bunch of the lore dives into GTFO from the people who actually collected all the lore and then try to figure stuff out. It was really cool. It's a good idea. It's weird the way they told the story, because, like, the average person's never going to know the story. And it's actually, like, a decent story. It's at least a decent setting. Like, it's pretty cool. It's based around, like, the place you're in is a burrowed into the earth facility, I think in Central America or South America. It's at a place called the Devil's Tick, which is the supposed place where the meteor that killed the dinosaurs came down. And the facility is sort of this situation where they're digging to that meteor to, like, kind of see what it is for scientific purposes. And I guess along the way they discovered, like, stuff the meteor left behind that gave them as a company the ability to, like, open portals to other places in the universe.
Like, there's some Eldritch stuff in this story. It's crazy. Like, everyone was thinking that the creatures you're killing in that game are like zombies or some kind of human thing. They're not. Supposedly they're just straight up aliens or like some weird cloning thing that went awry. All right. Core pink highlights. Now the trick becomes, these are even lighter, which I kind of want to work back into, because mixing the white and the pink was the only way to make the pink opaque enough to be on the model. But now that we have the So Flat pink, it should be better. Which, if this is the case, there's a chance that... what time is it? 2:44. I don't know if we're going to be able to go through all of it tonight. I'm trying to figure out what my schedule tomorrow is going to be for streaming. We could stream at the normal hours, or I could attempt a later in the day stream. And if we do a later in the day stream, I might focus on getting most of my Genestealer Cult, or at least a good chunk of my Genestealer Cult stuff, retouched up with the new pink highlight color. The new hotness. Starting with the Malstrains. Because, yeah, this is a much better feeling pink for their highlights, rather than, like, the white pink. Try to run an errand. We'll have to retouch up stuff. I'll have to go through what we have, because I think some of it we did just do straight, like, fluorescent pink too, without too much of a white mix in. take a look. Yeah, like this isn't bad. This feels okay next to it. Which means whatever I did with this pink, I kept it light enough. I'll have to look around. I'll have to peek through what we've done and see if there's some that don't look great. Maybe a little bit too light. But let me grab my black light real quick. We still need to do the base borders. That's going to be huge. Yeah. I love that you can still kind of see it, even with the light on. Like, it's just so much brighter. Good stuff. Good stuff today. But yeah, tomorrow we're either going to stream regular hours or we're going to stream later hours. Depending. I kind of want to see if I can get some viewership at later hours in the day. And I think Friday might be a good day to test that. I'm not sure. But we'll have to finish up the pink highlighting back on the mouse strains, since they are mostly light pink and not actual pure fluorescent pink. We also need to do the base bordering. And then we'll just have to go through all of the old models and see if any of them are a little too pink. Or a little too light in the pink that they have. And then, yeah, until the AdMech Genestealer Cult guy comes out, or the Mouse Strain Alpha comes out, my Genestealer Cult is done. And I'm going to probably want to go get a game or two in with them. Because I do kind of like them. I like them for how crazy blitzy they are. They really want to be in people's faces. And it's very easy to get them in people's faces. You got friggin' Infiltrate on Genestealers that can move 8 inches. Yeah. Yeah, they're coming for you. Oh, good stuff, though. And I think they can charge after advancing. So, like, good luck trying to stay away from them. Just put pockets of 10 behind buildings. A little Patriarch hanging out with one of the squads. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chilling. Thanks for talking. Hopefully more of this tomorrow. Till next time, guys. Later.